Hello and welcome everyone, I'm C.S.Gilmore, and today we're going to talk about the Warhammer Age of Sigmar book. I really gotta get an angle on that. Ghothgul Hollow. There we go. And it is by Anna Steffens. So, as some of you may have guessed, this actually ties in to the other book we recently read, Briarwood. There is a tie-in character, the scholar guy, whose name is right the second eluding me. What was it? Shoot. Anyway, was it Arik? I don't know. The scholar from Briarwood that comes in to help the family. He's also in this one as one of the characters. This has to do more with, in fact, he's a lot more involved in this, since this is, I believe, more his. I can't remember if it was his family specifically, or anyway, someone he's involved with. So there's a lot that goes on in this one, and it can be a little confusing because there's a little bit of, kind of a lot of them figuring out a mystery, and so we kind of figure it out as they do. Uh, there's a woman who has magic, and she's pretty powerful, and turns out her mother her and her father are trying to deal with some things. Her mother was also a very powerful uh, spellcaster, and something happened previously. They have a whole thing to do with a black dog for a long time, and it reaching out and it like has this bad tendency of showing up and attacking people and killing them, and they're the kind of the rulers, the lords of the area, so they're kind of trying to deal with the fact that this thing is causing problems, and they realize it's tied to their family, and they really kind of have to deal with it because it's coming for them. Now some things go on, and they learn a bit about how it actually might be tied to her mother, and also that it's not necessarily trying to kill them, but rather that it's a messenger. It's just not very good at delivering its message. And a lot of stuff goes down. There's a ton of fighting with both this thing and other things. You get to some really good examples of the dangers of spell casting. We get some flashbacks to when her mother was alive and there and everything, when they knew where she was and what was going on. And involved, once again, this thing's going after them back when the woman who's otherwise one of the main characters in this book was not even born yet. In fact, it has to do with her birth. Because while her mother is basically about to give birth to her, it is like in the process of giving birth to her, there's also this thing coming for him, and her mother's been trying to like realize that something is up and is trying to communicate with it. Some stuff happens. There's all sorts of spell casting that goes on, and when smoke clears, her mother is gone, and her daughter was born. And they're on the ground. They're on the, I think, a bed, with the umbilical cord, cut and tied all neatly. So all taken care of. but left her father and some of his helpers a little confused as to when the blazes happened. Um, Things escalate, as they often do in Warhammer stories. They have issues where the things want like this. They refer to it as like a curse is building up again. This dog is coming for them again, and then they also have to deal with some other problems because uh, I forget exactly how they handle it, but they deal with the dog to an extent, and then the something a little more a different messenger comes, a vampire. And it's very interesting how this all plays out because once again they are dealing with kind of fighting with this vampire. Lots of spell casting, lots of binding and protection and junk like that. Trying to deal with this thing, and in the end of it all, they end up actually kind of allying with the vampire in a kind of we have to sort of way rather than a because you never ally with a vampire if you got any sense into you and don't have a and you have a better choice. You don't. If you have a better choice, you do not ally with the vampire. You can't trust vampires generally. They are, especially in the Age of Sigmar and like the fantasy setting, they're kind of just evil by nature. Like even if they were a good person before they were a vampire, they develop certain characteristics when they become a vampire, and you can't really trust them. But you can sort of also at the same time trust them to follow some aspects of their nature. So you can work with them under certain conditions. And the main thing they figure out in this one, and I can't quite tell if this is set before or after Briarwood, or perhaps kind of similar time frame, but it ties in with Mhurghast. And suggesting that, and they are in the end they end up allying with the vampire to fight against Mhurghast, which we get some idea that Mhurghast is once again some horrible thing, maybe an entity, maybe a place, maybe we're not sure, but it's coming. It is bad, and like this vampire is tied in with all of this because she is trying to stop Mhurghast as well, and I think perhaps was stuck serving it at some point. I can't remember for sure, but either way, definitely trying to fight Mhurghast at this point, and so was trying to warn them it's about it, and but being a vampire, and I think being a bit blood starved as well at some point or another, like being weak, trying to get stronger, uh, complications. Vampires have a bad tendency of eating people, as we often come across in these sorts of stories. So, as it says here on the back here, a scholar, sorceress, killer, priest. Four people divided by their secrets and lies, bound together by horror, must unite their strengths to uncover a diabolic mystery, the clue to which they have but one incomprehensible word: Mhurghast. Because the so most of the story is them dealing with these weird manifestations that are kind of getting closer and closer to them and their family, and dealing with like trying to figure out what's going on. Since her mother's disappearance, her father has been, has their priest friend going out trying to find answers. They've been basically her father's been trying to kind of shield his daughter from all of this while trying to also figure out when the blazes happened to his wife. and there's a lot of stuff that has gone on. It's spread over a bit of time, like I mentioned, uh, as it says here on the back as well. Uh, but when the town is surrounded by a spate of sinister manifestations, the quiet formality of their days end. Worse still, the upheaval disturbs a terrible family secret, a chilling memory that Arik has kept buried for 25 years. Now, father and daughter must set aside their differences and search for answers to an ancient curse that is somehow linked to their past. Aided by a straight-talking sharpshooter and a shrewd man of faith, they seek to fathom the forces that assail the Hollow. So, yeah, if I remember right, part of the tension with the family was the father trying to stop his daughter from doing, witchcraft, magic stuff, and following the path of her mother, worried for her safety, and it would, lead to the same results. Meanwhile, he's been looking into the whole matter and trying to understand himself. There is a lot of that. It's a pretty good book, as I recall. Had some interesting things, some fun twists. The preparations they make against like the dog, the death dog appearing against the vampire coming is like basically is determined as the curse becoming more powerful. Like them trying to sanctify their estates, trying to set up defenses, working out all sorts of things between the priest's sanctification of things and the daughters being able to, do use magic and rituals and necromantic junk to try to protect themselves, figure out what's going on, and deal with it. It also we learn near the end there that the vampire has a name, Genevieve, and I don't know a whole lot about that character or the stories related to it, but my understanding is that I believe there are stories out there that involve this vampire. So there's other books out there somewhere that involve this character, and this is a tie into some or a tie in that like tying together of some of these other stories. Um, all in all, I don't know enough about the fantasy lore to know where this was may have ultimately led. I don't know if Mhurghast was ever explained more fully or ever proper or like completely explored. If it was one of those things that they just left as a evil thing coming out there, one of those things that is just a threat because it's kind of better for stories as a threat, and whether it'll actually be a thing or not, don't know. Because lore develops over time with these sorts of games and these ever being written stories. I'm not sure where it's all ended up. All in all, it was a fun read. I liked it. I enjoyed the character designs. I enjoyed their combat scenes and like how they handled things. They were. I may have mentioned it before, but I like it when a character acts correctly. Like I do like it when characters act in accordance with their character, especially like when they have individuality. But something I really like also in a lot of stories is when a character is smart about it. Like, not to say they don't take risks, but that they aren't just plain stupid. They aren't the horror movie tropes of let's split up, gang, and go explore the horrible mansion that we know is haunted by a murderous killer. That kind of problem. Don't do something stupid. These characters are intelligent. These characters have their individuality and they're working together. They have their own motivations and reasons for being there and being involved, whether it's caring about each other or like a sense of guilt over having failed before, and so many other things. They are working together, but they're smart about it, and they try to do their best to survive this scenario. and what they're being faced with, the unknown, and trying to figure it out and to understand it enough to stop it. All in all, it was a fun story. Ghothgul Hollow, like I said, I can recommend it as a good read. Try to think if there's anything else I should really cover involving it. I did skip over like a lot of the nitty-gritty details. They really go into a lot of detail about their preparations, trying to hunt this creature, being hunted by this creature. They're learning as they go and developing their strategies and improving on it and realizing where it's leading and trying to handle that. But ultimately, it does also leave a lot open for future stories because we never see them actually like deal with Mhurghast. Mhurghast. I'm going to pronounce it like 16 different ways probably at the rate this is going. I don't know. It's spelled M-U-H, sorry, not M-U-H, M-H-U-R-G-H-A-S-T. So yeah, one of those funny little mystery things that kind of ties into a bunch of things. I mean, we've seen it in fantasy mostly, I think is where I've seen it, but I believe we also saw it in some of the 40K stuff occasionally, particularly the Bookkeeper's Skull, I believe, mentions it. I can't remember if any of the other 40K books do, but it's just one of those little things that's just fun to have mentioned. Sometimes be like, ooh, okay, something deeper ties in here. Which is kind of like what I was saying. I'm not sure if they ever resolved this in any way. World Games Workshop's been known to kind of just, no, that storyline's just been dropped for now. Maybe indefinitely. But who knows? Maybe it'll get picked up at some point. Or I might just not know about it because I don't know the fantasy lore well enough. I think I'm going to end that here. I will add here, I think I'm going to take a break from doing these book discussions for a bit. It's not that I don't have more books that I could discuss. I have boxes of books, and though a lot of them are omnibuses, which I really need to review how I want to discuss omnibuses because uh sometimes I feel like it would be easier to discuss them like each book in the omnibus individually, but at the same time I often like, especially if they're related to each other, my brain will often tie their stories together in some chronological chain, and I have trouble remembering where one story ends and where another begins. We saw that a bit when I discussed the Soul Drinker omnibuses, and I was talking about the storylines, and then getting a little bit of the storylines mixed up here and there because I was like, wait, nope, that story happened. Then after that, then this happened. There's a lot, and yeah, I would like to talk about some other stories at some point. I would like to talk about Gaunt's Ghosts. I'd like to talk about The Infinite and the Divine, uh, Caiaphas Cain, and so many others. And maybe I will. I probably will at some point. I just right now I haven't been reading a lot. I've been more focused on playing games and recording those and doing other things and life in general. And so I kind of like I just haven't had the motivation to sit down and remember and go over some of these stories and try to remember how they all went and things like that. Uh, Plus, I have to decide how I want to portray some of them, like the Infinite Divine. I mean, I just have to like if I do talk about it, I'll have to probably just get a picture and prop it in there because I gave my copy to a family member who's also getting into Warhammer a bit, and I was like, "You have to read this book. It's great because it is. It's amazing." Can't remember what other books I gave. I know I gave him more than one. Maybe one of the Caiaphas Cain novels. It might have been the first one. because that's a fun jumping point. A bit more comedic, but still does a good job of portraying 40k. But yeah, so after all this thinking about it, I think I'm going to take a break from the 40k discussions and the Age of Sigmar discussions for the time being, but probably not forever. Just for the time being, I'm just not feeling them as much. In their place, I'll probably pick up the old practice of just releasing a second video in general on Saturdays. Who knows? Maybe if I get in the mood, I will talk about some of these other books and some other books, and I'll just sprinkle them in. So it can maybe just a bit more of a surprise when I do. I haven't fully decided how I want to handle it yet. Just that I don't think I want to do them every single week right now because I like even recording this right now. I had to stop myself and go, all right, I need this I need for release tomorrow, and I otherwise I'm like, but I could go play more Blueprints. I could go play more Pacific Drive. I could try so many other things that I haven't gotten around to. There's too much to do, not enough time. What do I feel like doing more of? All right, that's enough of my discussion on future plans. So many things. I really should get back to messing with Blender. I have so many ideas, and I have my skill level so low. It's hard to bring anything to life there. But I've got plans. I want to do stuff with that. But that's another one. I've just once again, it's right now I'm more and more of a play video games kick and feel with all that. So I want to push on with that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've been enjoying these books. I hope you get to check out some of these books because I'm not doing them nearly as much justice as I probably should. These are good books, mostly, unless I've said otherwise. Then who knows? Maybe I just wasn't getting them. But most of these books I share are ones that I've enjoyed. I liked them. They were interesting. They had some interesting concepts, and they're worth checking out. I don't know. Comments below. How do you feel about that? Like, did you enjoy the book? Have you read it? Favorite parts? Least favorite parts? Uh, are you? I don't know. Maybe I should just do a poll at some point. But like, people's opinions on more book discussions. Good. Should I give more efforts into that? Or okay, yeah, we're good with anything. For now, good night, everyone. Bye.